Welcome. Another State of the Bulldogs. It is just Grant and I tonight, a lighter crowd, but Grant, we still got a great show. Lots going on. Golf wrapped up for the ladies, just kicked off for the men's in the SoCon tourney. Basketball updates, baseball, softball continue to roll. But first, a little warm up. We're not going to do around the horn because it's just you and I. That would be a little. You would just be on the spot.
But technically, it kind of is around the horn if you just do me.
But we got three questions: one softball, and then one from Twitter. Don't worry, Adult Cuddy. We'll get to yours later in the portal section. But Birmingham Sports, to kick it off, Graham, asked, should the SoCon basketball tournament move back to Atlanta? Now, he's referencing the OG basketball tournament for the Southern Conference before he's even coined the Southern Conference. I don't know if it stayed. Now, to be fair, I don't know if it stayed in Atlanta once it became the Southern Conference. Got to look that up. But what did become the Southern Conference, as we've talked about a couple times, that tournament did start here in a building that I don't think exists anymore. But besides the point, Grant, should it come back to Atlanta? It's currently, for those who don't know, in Asheville, North Carolina.
I mean, for our benefit, yes. Sign me up tomorrow for an Atlanta SoCon. I mean, it's only a 5.5 hour drive. Not complaining because I made that covering the team, but still make it easier for everybody to travel. It would be awesome if it was Atlanta, in the southern part of the country in Atlanta. Southern Conference, southern, obviously. So
it fits. It fits. Yeah. I would say it's more centrally located for the majority of the conference, except, look, ETSU and Western have a nice, easy breezy drive. VMI, they're toast no matter what. Citadel, frankly, they're kind of toast as well. Anytime you're on the coast like that, odds are not great. But for everybody else, Samford, Wofford, Mercer, Furman, obviously Mercer, UTC. That's a 2-3 hour max drive for all of those schools.
Because I'm pretty sure Samford's the farthest away from Asheville, like by mileage. If you want to go, like VMI, obviously next to last in that regard.
I'm kind of surprised we lose to VMI on that one, or beat VMI on that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember how close it is, but I think I want to say Samford's the farthest away from an Asheville tournament because volleyball goes to Asheville too, along with the two basketball teams.
Right. So one con that I was thinking about, it seems like the community of Asheville really gets behind the conference tournament. That may not be the case in Atlanta, but what would make up for it is the increased attendance of actual fans.
Yeah.
Not just local basketball people. And of which there are plenty. Like you have any event in a metropolitan area of the size of Atlanta, you're going to have just a bunch of random people show up no matter what.
Yeah.
I think it also brings a lot of relevance to the conference when you put basically your marquee conference event in such an isolated part of the country. Not the best if you're trying to garner attention, right?
Yep.
And also just having anything in Atlanta, look, it's the capital of the South. We can argue that till the day is long, but it is. And as a Southern Conference, as you said, it would be very fitting. The SEC is going to move its headquarters here. I'm sorry, Birmingham. That is going to happen. The SEC already has their football championship here. There's a reason that for the most part, Nashville is kind of the only competitor in the sense of that regional scene of having the biggest events. Hoover, I guess, can throw in that they have the baseball tournament for now. Unfortunately, that's up for debate.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Nashville, because the deal ends this year, 2024. I know they're making improvements to the Hoover Met, trying to keep it, but up in Nashville will be one of the players be like, hey, we come bring this over here, while Birmingham and Hoover will try to hold on to it as long as possible, obviously.
Yeah, Hoover needs to hold on to that. That's a special thing. That's one where you not only have the local community, but then you actually have actual fans. It's like the best of both worlds. And I don't know if you necessarily get that if you move, frankly, to a more expensive place to stay a weekend. Like I know that if you go to Nashville, that's going to enter a lot of people's minds. So I really want to drive up from Starkville and spend $800 a night or $700 a night competing with all those bachelorette parties.
Yeah.
Probably not, But if I can stay in Hoover, Alabama for $150, I mean, that's a big factor.
And the LSU fans love all the trailer room that Hoover Met has, so like they would want to abandon any of that either.
That's right. Yeah. Second only to West Virginia in mobile home parks. I'm joking, but Atlanta just seems like the right fit for the SoCon. Yeah, if we're trying to be the SEC's little brother, if we really want to embody that persona,
let's do it.
I feel like we mimic them in every way, right?
Yeah.
Except having it in Nashville. No one needs a basketball tournament in Nashville. Nashville overrated. Anyway, thank you, Birmingham Sports. Great question. Obviously, we'd like it to be in Birmingham, but that's never going to happen.
Yeah, they don't ask us all.
Yeah.
Any question? Maybe we get the commissioner on and be like, "Hey, Atlanta? No."
Yeah. Oh, we will. So if we do get the commission on, we will ask him that question. Put him on the hot seat. I'm like, why is it in this small little mountain town in North Carolina that is impossible to get to for anybody?
Yeah.
All right. So next question. It is Talladega. I know when I was at Samford, this was always a big weekend. I never actually made it there. Grant, did you?
Same. I've lived here for 15 years. We talked about it like almost every year. Like, we need to go down there and check it out just to experience it. It always looks like a grand time. Obviously, everybody hanging out there, but I would love to go check it out someday.
It does look like an awesome time. And likewise, I mean, we always like, oh, we should go this year. We should go this year. People did. I remember a few of the teachers actually made a ritual out of it almost. They would show up on Thursday or Wednesday, whenever the practice round started, they would pitch their infield setup. And they would camp out for the entire weekend. But Talladega was ended, so it's Sunday night. Talladega ended just a couple hours ago in spectacular fashion. The leader, it was either I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was Keselowski, was weaving to maintain the lead in the final lap. Like, we're talking the home stretch. He crashes, and then Tyler Reddick of Team 2311, which is my favorite race team because it has Michael Jordan. I mean, how can you not like? I'm not a big Hamlin fan, but Michael Jordan, like, cool, sneaks in and steals the victory at Talladega. I think it's his first Talladega victory. I bet it's 2311's first victory at Dega. But Grant, you said you've never been, but were you able to catch any of the race this weekend?
I didn't, but I did see some pictures on social of like Michael Jordan walking around, and he was talking. Obviously, one of his drivers winning. He was talking, and there's a lot of good social clips out there of him walking around, just talking. You can hear him talk about the race and how excited he was, and how excited they'll be on the flight back home was one thing he mentioned. So take that as you will for Michael Jordan standards.
So this weekend, the NASCAR bug bit me a little, Grant. I watched the NASCAR or part of the NASCAR Netflix series. Mm-hmm. It's really good. And they featured Denny Hamlin and the 2311 team. And I was like, all right, I can kind of get behind them. I like the villain that Denny plays. It was kind of cool when you win a race and the entire crowd is booing. I kind of like those guys.
Yeah.
But something that I didn't know, Grant, I don't know why I haven't been a NASCAR fan before. The origins of the sport are spectacular. Moonshine bootleggers outrunning cops, souping up small cars to weave in and out or weave through these mountain roads is kind of how the stock car racing got started, because, you go through Prohibition, it was only a couple of years. And you have these guys who become really prolific racers, albeit evading cops. Prohibition ends, and it's like, well, what do we do now? Well, we race for fun. We race for competition. We have these awesome cars and these awesome drivers. And then it's kind of coupled with this is all from Wikipedia, so it's easy to look up. It was kind of coupled with the birth of Daytona as a go-to worldwide location for testing the limits of the newest and greatest vehicles. So you kind of married those two, people wanting entertainment. And then, as always, right, there's some nefarious characters stealing money and stuff. So there's kind of a need for a more standard professional operation. So I think it's the France family. Now I'm kind of blanking, but I can't remember the name of the starting family. But they formed NASCAR. It was called like NSCC in the 30s. I think it was 1938 in Florida. And was a very cultural thing for the South, which is why I'm frankly surprised I haven't been a fan of before, I guess now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a interesting origins, a lot of money. Grant, I joked with you. They showed the Denny Hamlin's private plane, not his jet, his private plane. Yes, a lot of cash rolling around those garages.
Yeah, I can't laugh when was part of like the F1 train with Drive to Survive on Netflix as well. So definitely a ton of money in that as well.
Same. I'm still on the F1 train. I don't enjoy watching the ends as much because it's always, at this point, Max Verstappen, as he won the Chinese Grand Prix today.
He did.
But I do love the drama of the other, especially the midfield. There's a lot of fun in that. NASCAR, I'm way more, what's the word? I'm like an infant in terms of knowing any of the strategy, terminology. I don't know what the stages really mean. I got a lot to learn, Grant. I got a lot.
Okay. Gotta start somewhere. I gotta start somewhere.
Last question before we get to baseball. This is the softball. Favorite part of Samford in the spring?
It's got to be the way the campus looks, right? I mean, just going on a walk if you're in that area. I mean, there's no reason not to go and check out the scenery. Then you got obviously baseball, and kids aren't on campus that long anymore because I remember they dumped Jan term, so they got a mini May, so they'll be graduating early and get off campus earlier, so they can't experience that as much, and that's kind of unfortunate for the Ring by Spring people. You kind of gotta half your time was cut off. You got to be quick with this. You can't wait any longer.
That's so true.
You can't wait any later. You got to make the right decision and know what you want to do. Yeah.
Oh man, the Ring by Spring crowd. I don't know why, but did they have a Makeout Mountain or whatever it was called? That it was the right across. It was like the ridge across from campus. Right?
Yeah.
Was that still a thing when you're? I mean, we're only like 2 years apart.
There were 2 years of difference, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
Oh, that's funny. But, that's something great. When I put this question, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right. They don't have Jan term anymore.
Yeah.
I think so. It makes a lot of sense from a practical standpoint for kids. When we were there and you're trying to go get like a Jan term internship, everybody's kind of like, what? Like you're trying to get what? 4 weeks in January? You want a job for 4 weeks in January? And you're like, yeah, that's when I'm available. This makes a lot more sense from that standpoint. But from a community and class standpoint, I do think that is a whiff by the administration.
It's mainly just for graduation. You graduate earlier than everybody. That way you're on the job market faster than everybody else. But still,
life is too short to worry about. You got to take advantage of the great weather that the spring provides in Birmingham. That's what was fun about Samford was so football. Everyone's consumed about or fall. Everybody's consumed with football, whether that's SEC, SoCon, whatever it was. It was SEC if we're being real. Winter, especially when everybody got back to school, it was all about step sing. And then it was all about the build up to spring break. But what was nice about going to Samford and having that Jan term is when you got back from spring break, you had like 8 weeks or more remaining on campus. And that's the time I thought, especially like intramural softball, intramural baseball, a lot of the just like hanging out on the quad and hanging out in general, Ben Brown was like at its peak. Because there wasn't a lot going on outside of school right on campus. And so it gave just everybody wonderful opportunities to be with each other in fantastic weather. That's the key. It wasn't hot yet. The fall is still hot. And then then there's like barely a fall and then you're kind of cold. But spring was my favorite time at Samford. It was the least distracted time, which also created a lot more distractions, if you know what I mean. But let's get to baseball. So we lost the midweek to Troy, back and forth battle. It was one of those where you just wanted to be like, how can we not pull ahead and stay ahead in this game? But Troy got the better of us. but we rebounded, Grant. We rebounded. Won the series against Western Carolina 2-1. Our first real ETSU, I guess, is tied with Western in the conference at the moment, but it felt Western just feels like a better team. The RPI, as we'll get to, will highly disagree with me. But it was an impressive victory, and especially considering with the doubleheader on Saturday, and we dropped the first one in a blowout.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, the fact that we had to come back and win the second one on the road to win the series, I think is what is the takeaway, so to speak. But first, I want to hear if you had any thoughts. I didn't watch I didn't watch a single part of the games, but I was keeping up via the little ESPN stat tracker they had, which was unfortunate because when I went back to look at the stats, Lucas Steele, baby. But Grant, thoughts first.
I did watch Friday. Michael Ross against Shove, 7 innings. I can't remember how many hits off the top of my head. It wasn't that many. K'd up
4 hits. 4
hits, 1 earned runs. Gave up 1 homer, 7 Ks. So it was awesome to see him just continue to dominate out there in the ways we saw that Jacob Cravey do that same thing last year. And then I couldn't watch Saturday, the first one, which was okay because they got run ruled. But then the next game wasn't available to stream. It was just live stats. So I was following the live stats of the third game. So just seeing the guys call back and score 3 runs in the 8th inning and have some guys in the lineup step up big and hit huge homers was awesome to see. Because Samford has struggled the most in that third game of the series that Sunday. So maybe it was good that I couldn't think about Saturday loss and get to Sunday. It was good. Okay, 30 minutes. Let's go get out here and get this done.
Sure. Okay, that makes me feel better, Grant, because the third game was the one that I could watch. And that was the one where I tried to tune in to watch. And I was like, is my ESPN app broken? It wouldn't have shocked me if they just forgot to leave the Western Carolina Samford game off of the streaming options.
It's possible.
But I was like, what the heck is going on? Okay, so that makes more sense. It wasn't available. I guess they didn't have the staff to do a second game that day, or the commentators maybe weren't available. But yeah, dude, Friday, Ross is automatic at this point. It's unbelievable. 7 innings, 1 run, 9 Ks. I mean, dude is on a different level. He's on a much different level than the rest of the pitching staff. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And we haven't confirmed yet, but Brooks Rice did not pitch this weekend. We don't know if there's an injury. We don't know if coach is just trying some new stuff out. But that was one interesting thing to note, is before everyone jumps to conclusions about the 10-2 loss in game 2, Brooks Rice was not on the mound. So don't fear. He has not fallen that low. But, something to monitor. We'll keep an eye on it. We've put the feelers out to see if there is an injury or kind of what's going on, but something to keep in mind, because he is so far our best number 2. And we've talked about it the entire year so far, but pitching is this team's weakness, because hitting is certainly not, dude. Lucas Steele homered in every single game. I said he's our own Joey Gallo. Doesn't hit for average, but he hits bombs.
Yeah, that's really all that matters at this point, especially when you got the 2 Garretts, 1-2. They're both hitting homers too. You throw in Aaron Walton, had a big weekend, hit 2 homers, I want to say, on Saturday too.
Yep.
In 2 games. So he's really stepped on out as of late. So it's good to see him get out there and push J-Rod over to left, where he's probably a little bit more comfortable with Aaron out there in center.
Yeah, good vibes right now from the baseball team. Because beating a pretty decent Western team on the road, it's good, because here's the deal. We got Bama coming up on Tuesday. Now, their RPI is top 20. I think they're right at 20 at the moment. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a challenge. Odds are not in our favor. But we have Liberty coming in on Saturday. Now, Liberty is not that good. Their RPI is in at 144, and this is, I put as a need to sweep. Not because we're fighting for an at-large bid. That at the moment is just kind of not an option. Yeah. We'll get to that in a moment. But a need to sweep in the sense that we need to demonstrate not only to ourselves, but frankly to our opponents coming up, Mercer and Wofford, that this team's legit. Because I don't know if we're garnering the respect necessary from the opponents that we need for that mental edge.
Yeah.
That may be thinking a little too deep about something that I have no real earthly idea about. But that's the feeling. Because the SoCon standings, as they stand now, based on when you compare them to the RPI, we are not first. So And the SoCon standings were first. We're 10-2. Wofford's at 7-4. UNCG's right there at 7-5. And then ETSU, Western, VMI are all tied at 6-6. Mercer, the surprise, at 4-7. I mean, the shocker at 4-7.
Yeah, they've had some rough weekends. Obviously, 7 losses, but they've had some rough weekends.
Rough weekends, mainly due to injury. Their pitching staff has been obliterated, but still, 4-7 in conference play for a team that was hyped up to win the conference. I mean, hyped up on a national level by the 11.7 guys. Now, granted, both of them went to Mercer.
That's right.
But they love to be at least partial. But yeah, 4-7, and then Citadel 1-11. But so my point,
and it's the same Mercer team on Tuesday. They went down to Florida State and beat them by like 5 runs. So it's just a weird.
It's weird.
Like, it's a weird sport. Samford beat Kentucky a couple weeks ago. Mercer did the same thing, going down and be a top 10 team. So it's just a weird sport, as we said last week.
Yeah, we do not understand. But so Wofford. So we're talking about RPI. Samford is sitting at 73rd. Okay. UNCG's at 74. So we're kind of the two comparatives there. Wofford and ETSU. Okay. This was shocking when I looked this up. So ETSU. So remember back in the about 2 months ago, we beat Purdue or tied Purdue in a series 2-2 on the road at Purdue. ETSU just beat them in a 3-game series 2-1. They're 47th, Grant. 47th. Wow. Guys, we beat them 2-1. And ETSU is not the 47th best baseball team in America if we're the 73rd. I'm losing more and more faith in RPI by the minute, Grant. And then Wofford, the ankle biters, the fake baseball team who thinks it's 1930 out here and we're just going to bunt and steal our way to victory, is sitting at 54th. 50 freaking 4th.
26-11, 7-4, as we mentioned at SoCon Play.
I don't understand. Grant, we've made this joke before, but did they hire Brett Yormark for a little RPI consultation? How do we rig the system? Frauds.
I don't see any big midweek games as we talked about last week. Continue to talk about. I mean, they beat
exactly, dude.
Maybe
it's the formula.
Yeah,
it's the formula. It's no bad losses.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Blowout wins. Yeah. But it's blowout wins against crappy competition. Now, Wofford did beat Mercer in a series this weekend.
Yeah.
But Mercer was right there. I mean, I know that if you look it up, you're going to see a blowout. But the blowout you see was 2-2 in the 9th. Okay, went into extras. They scored 8 runs in the 10th. I'm sorry, Mercer opens worse than ours. Yeah, go look that up, Grant. It was nuts. I was like, how did this happen?
They scored 7 in the 12th. That's insane.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad.
Triple.
Sorry, not 8 in the 10th. Not 8 in the 10th, 7 in the 12th. Thank you.
Triple, walk, double, K, single, fielder destroys, steal, walk, homer, and then walk and stealing.
Walks, dude. That's how we lost to Troy. Walks.
7
walks
runs
are
on 4
an
hits.
Absolute killer in college baseball. There's too many hits. You cannot give up walks as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we end the season with Mercer and Wofford. It's a pretty brutal way to end because we have Wofford. Now, granted, Wofford does come to Homewood. So we have Wofford at home to end the season, which is probably going to be a battle for the 1 seed. Hopefully, we're rolling. The thing with Wofford is if our offense rolls, we don't have to worry. Because if there's one thing that we do know is that Wofford's style of play can be defeated with mediocre pitching.
Yeah.
We just have to execute on defense. But we'll see. Just keep that in mind. Wofford is 54th in America in RPI, and we end with them. But Liberty coming up, 144. Like I said, need a sweep to feel good. If we lose the series, that's not the direction you want to be heading into the last half of the season or last quarter of the season.
Especially when you got a 2-game lead coming down the wire. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so Grant, Samford Portal, basketball, got a little football update. This was an awesome tweet. We'll get to that in a minute. Got a shout out to Dolt Cuddy for giving us these questions. First one, Grant, hand it over to you. Thoughts on Colin Holloway and specifically how well he'll fit into Jermaine's role.
I do love that you pronounced Cuddy correctly this time rather than a couple weeks ago. So
what did I say a couple weeks ago?
Cootie. I think it's what.
Oh, no way! No way! All right, yeah, Cuddy.
Anyway, yeah. So Samford over the weekend picked up their first transfer with Colin Holloway, as you can see on the screen for our YouTube viewers on my tweet on the announcement. 6'6", averaged just under 13 points and 5 rebounds per game. For a guy, he only attempted 59 threes last year. So for a guy, and he made 20 of them. So for a guy to only attempt 59 and yet still have 21 games scoring in double figures, I thought that was honestly like the most impressive thing. Looking into the tape, and we'll play a little bit of his video once we get moving on here. But yeah, he chose Samford over Clemson, LSU, and McNeese State, and a couple other teams. So there is one really cool connection that Holloway did have with Samford in the recruiting process. So Holloway's from Baton Rouge. He played at Port Allen High School in Baton Rouge. There, his head coach was former Samford guard and Samford assistant coach Derek Jones, who was on the 99 and 2000 national championship teams. And he's also related to Holloway. He's actually Holloway's second cousin.
Dang.
So he at least had some inclination. Okay, Samford could be a school that who knows down the line this area of basketball. Who knows if that was in his mind or not? But still, he's played for a Samford alum. He's related to one, and it was awesome to see. You can obviously see why Samford decided to go down this route and target Holloway, who put up those kind of numbers in American Athletic Conference play.
No, that's what I like. Is the numbers that he put up were not in D2 or JUCO. They were in a legitimate basketball conference, and there's a lot like that. That production should transfer very well to the SoCon. And shameless plug here, Grant. Loved your connection that you found, and you put it in the article. So go subscribe to the Samford Scoop. Check out our website, State of the Bulldogs. That's where you'll be able to subscribe and see the article. And that was honestly, Grant, I live for things like that in sports, those little connections. And that was awesome to see.
And that is something the staff loves to use, because obviously bringing back Jermaine, who's in the portal, Birmingham guy, bring back some other Florida guys. There was Coach Gillian who was on staff, who did all of his work in Florida before moving up to the college level. So you've got connections down there. Lorenzo Jenkins, who's on the staff now, Deb Xantis worked down in Orlando too. So you do have those Florida connections, which is something we'll get into when we get to other guys that Samford is targeting. But we do love to see the staff using those connections to their advantage. So on the screen here, I pulled up a screenshot of Holloway's KenPom stats. If you look over here, his field goal percentage was 54%. Like I said at the top, that's pretty good for a guy who doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but still finds a way to score and get around the rim. And he is 6'6", around 215. So again, he does fill that Jermaine role of a guy who'll be a bruiser, who'll get in there and he'll use his physicality to advantage, which is something that Jermaine loved to do. Obviously, he was a former football guy. He'll get in there and scrum with the best of you. And try to pick a fight if you'll let him. So I think that is something you'll see Holloway do, and just having that experience again, playing at a higher level, moving down, scoring to double figures, all those games. His experience will be huge for Samford coming up this year. And one more thing, Tulane was 11th, or I think they were 8th in adjusted tempo for KenPom, and Samford was 11th. So he won't have any problem fitting into the system of a system that likes to go up and down the court and have a way to move the ball. And maybe this comes with more threes. Of course, with this system, Buck, you'll let anybody shoot threes. It doesn't matter. So obviously so I could see those attempts go up, and you'll see him obviously do a lot of this work in the summer. Because you remember in the preseason, Bucky was like, our guys take 2,000 threes a week and we track everything. So that's basically what they'll be doing this summer, along with Holloway and our other Holloway, Josh Holloway. That's something he'll be working on too. Like he even posted a clip a couple weeks ago of him in the gym with Coach Neb. He's over there knocking down corner trays. So that is something he's going to work on. So yeah, we do have 2 Holloways coming up this year.
I love it. 2 Statons on, or two Garretts on the baseball team and 2 Holloways on the basketball team. We'll get used to it.
We can't catch a break, but
yeah, seriously. You made a good point, Grant, about the relationships. Something that just popped in my mind is that maybe for mid-majors, especially when NIL is basically even across the board of who you're competing with, right? Like, let's just assume that all else is equal, they're getting about the same money from a UTC or a Belmont or a Furman that they would be at Samford. Maybe that relationship and finding guys with any kind of other connection is going to be the secret to landing a dude, because frankly, it seems like very much like an open market, right? And that the player goes to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
But finding connections like this, I mean, is that like, do you think that's going to be how the mid majors find their guys? And if so, it kind of puts a bigger emphasis on who you hire as a coach.
Oh yeah,
For your assistants.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It makes the staff you hire so much more important. They got to have regionality. They got to have one, regionality, and two, be able to talk with a bunch of different guys and be a good relationship builder. That's something you obviously see assistants and head coaches too. Bucky obviously knows literally every name involved with Alabama basketball, obviously from being here and his notoriety throughout the state. But when you have assistants like that who can build relationships and go into homes, go onto Zooms and say, hey, okay, we have these list of guys we're connected to, or maybe it's a guy you're not connected to, and you can know how to build a relationship with them once you get Zoom, then once you get a kid on campus.
And that's obviously always been the case, right? Like the assistants that climb the ladder, frankly, are not the X's and O's guys. It's the guys that bring in the dudes. And now I guess you add that extra wrinkle of, well, who do you know now? Because you're right, Grant. Like, yes, it would be great to have a guy who can develop a relationship. But in how fast the tenure is for these players, 1-2 years per team, it's almost like, all right, well, like who did you recruit at your prior school? Who did you coach at your prior school? Looking for connections like that. And that just makes the job of Bucky and every other mid-major head coach that much harder, because that is literally turning over every stone as you're looking to build out your staff with recruiting, front of mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and for a YouTube audience, you can see some clips of Holloway we're rolling. You can kind of see that athleticism, that physicality he uses for backdoor cuts. He can finish at the rim. Yeah, he finished at the rim. He's got some Furman highlights in there. If you want to go back and watch that double overtime game, I think they beat Furman in double overtime. That was a game where they had to claw their way back and find a way. So if you see Holloway excelling around the rim here, finishing through contact, that's obviously something you love to see, especially for a guy coming down a level. But one more thing on the Derek Jones front is former Samford guard. He quote tweeted my tweet and said about the announcement, said, Samford's getting a great player and an even person. I gained even more respect for Coach Bucky, Coach Mitch Cole, and the rest of the staff for how genuine and how real they were during this process. So again, it just goes back to that relationship building and know how to cultivate a relationship. And Bucky's been in those rooms, obviously, on the other side as head coach, knowing what to decipher the BS that this coach is trying to spill out or something like that. So they do know how to attack and go into potential recruits' rooms and talk to their parents and be able to build relationships with them. So this is a relationship that they used pretty effectively in getting Holloway to come from Tulane.
That's awesome. That brings up another layer, a better person, right? Like we always talk about when we interview these guys, we always are blown away by their personality and their character. And so when you're a school like Samford, unfortunately, when you're a school like Furman, when you're a school even like, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but Wofford or Mercer, mainly the private schools, right? There's usually a higher degree of personality that these schools look for. Or how do I say that? They put more of an emphasis on the culture fit, not only in terms of the team. Every team does that, right? Every team looks for the culture fit of the team, but also the university, because that's what these universities are selling. They're not selling value, right? If you're looking for value in education, you go to the local community college. That's the best bang for your buck in every city in the United States. Yeah. These schools are selling not only an experience, but also a common culture. And that's an even harder thing to find for these mid-major programs. So just another challenge for an already challenging environment.
Yeah, and I was listening to Dan Hurley, a UConn head coach, was on with JJ Redick's podcast the other day, and they had a great clip out. And Don Staley's talked about this too for South Carolina, about how they can know a lot from a player by talking to their parents and see how they interact with their parents. So that's obviously one other thing that we obviously not thrown to the rug, but not focused on as much to see how they like interact, how the parents, how good of a relationship they can build with the parents. So it's something like even the bigger level coaches talk about before recruiting and signing a player, not just what they do on the court, but how they are off it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So Grant, let's get to the other adult cutting question. So he mentioned a specific player, Brennan Rigsby, and also asked if we have other portal targets. But hit on Brennan. Who is he? Where is he playing right now? And what position?
Rigsby is a 6'3", 185-pound guard. He's transferred from Oregon. He started at Northwest State College, which again goes back to the connections I talked about that Coach Jenkins and Coach Nebb have with guys down to Florida. I think Jenkins specifically coached in Orlando for like 5 or 6 years, and that's where this school is. So but that's where Northwest Florida State is. So you do know they got a lot of connections with him and will bring him to Kansas. Wanted to bring him to campus. Excuse me. Gosh, please don't go to Kansas. But as a junior, he averaged 6 points. He started 13 games, which is again Holloway started all 30 games down at Tulane. So getting a guy with P6 experience, and he played a lot in the Pac-12 tournament too. He's a 37% shooter from three. So once again, he's a guy that if you play more, get him in the gym more, and he starts maybe averages 25 to 30 minutes, maybe he can get to that Jaden Campbell type of level 3-point shooter, which is something that if he does choose Samford, he'll be filling that Jaden role. So
I like that. Hold on. What did he shoot from three? Sorry.
He was 35% from three.
Okay, that's not bad. And he's 6'3". And he said he is coming from Oregon.
Yeah.
But has that personal connection. So
yeah, we'll see.
Sounds pretty promising.
Yeah, so we'll see if they can close that. But other targets, I mean, they kind of like not a whole lot public for the most part. I just go back to last year. Like we didn't know that Dallas was on their radar until they announced that they signed Dallas Graziani. Ryland was a May addition. We didn't even know that Samford reached out to Ryland and knew after the fact that Gonzaga and Notre Dame were coming after him. So I think for those that are just waiting for Samford to add players, they have obviously go to the tournament and you got spots to fill. You can be more selective and you kind of go bigger fish hunting too, because you see they're focusing on those P5 and P6 players before you go down to the D2. Like Furman, they're just trying to fill spots, so they're going down to good D2 players who could be really good, but Samford is still trying to fish in the bigger pool for more guys, obviously using what happened last year as a springboard for that. So I think we're still so early in the portal process, so there's no reason to fret. Like Samford's only added one guy. They got 5 spots. They'll fill them, and obviously they've got our full trust that they'll fill all those spots with quality guys.
Yeah, we're not worried. There's still plenty of time left. So let's jump to football news. So this is sweet. Obviously, if you're on Twitter, you're following the draft coming up, there's a lot of hype for Michael Hiers. And the hype train keeps on rolling. So Lance Zierlien, great NFL draft, what do you call him? Mock drafter. His analyst. Thank you, Grant. His role for, I don't know, maybe 15 years has been primarily to look at the film of thousands of college athletes who are looking to go on to the NFL and then grade them. He's one of the top minds of grading prospects, and he tweeted out, if you are looking for a late-round quarterback that is Purdy-esque, right, that same kind of energy of just a late-round diamond in the rough, Michael Hiers is who he would pick. I mean, we cannot – look, we watched Michael 2 years, right? 22 was obviously better than 23. However, Grant, throw that stat out there about Michael's throws in 2023. What was the percentage that were behind the line of scrimmage?
So yeah, NFL.com, again, they got an overview of the player's strengths and weaknesses. And the first weaknesses said per PFF, per Football Focus, a whopping 30% of his targets were behind the line of scrimmage.
Now, as guys that watched the entire Samford football season last year, why was that, Grant? Why do you think that? Is it because Michael just loves to roll out and create on his own?
because he just loves for a bubble screen, Sam. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, it's funny, Grant. That stat, I was shocked it was so low, given the level of or the amount of bubble screens we do throw. I was like, wow, I guess those were all the bubble screens, couple of slants, couple of deep balls. But no, we're joking. The offensive line was obviously a weakness of the team last year, and that really showed itself in that little stat right there. Now, granted, look, we were fair last year. We said Michael holds on to the ball too long. That's also part of it, right? He doesn't always throw to the most open target right when the ball is snapped as he's going through his progression. So sometimes he did have to roll out to buy some time because he didn't make the throw he probably should have earlier. But all that to say, when a guy like Lance Zierlien, now I lived in Houston for about 5 years, was lucky enough to have Lance as the local ESPN guy that I listened to every morning on the way to work. Awesome radio guy.
Did not know that. Yeah, cool.
Awesome radio guy, yeah. And to have a guy of that stature tweet out about Michael Hiers, we can officially say, the hype is legit. Michael has a very good chance of being drafted. Now, it still doesn't mean he'll get drafted, right? Like that would still be an incredible accomplishment that he shouldn't anticipate. But when a guy like Lance is tweeting out about it, that's kind of a stamp of approval from the establishment, so to speak, that he's at least good enough to be considered in those last few rounds, which I think is an incredible accomplishment.
And he did talk about, the Brock Purdy effect. Like if one team does it and finds a guy deep in the draft, every other team will want to do the same thing, right? So it's obvious, work for them. Let's see if it worked for us. Obviously, teams are trying to find a guy like that. And Hiers, I never really thought about it, but he kind of does play like Brock Purdy a little bit. I mean, you and I watched a lot of Brock Purdy games. It's not the same Brock Purdy, that we saw at Iowa State. It's more like the Niners Brock Purdy kind of a comparison. That guy, the arm strength.
Well, both are the same, Grant. They don't win championships, but continue.
Well, they're a little bit different. But if you saw Brock Purdy like off his back foot at Iowa State, like throwing to guys, just look up Brock Purdy Iowa State, and there's some pretty awful highlights in there. Then he gets to Shanahan. It turns out he gets to be a part of a team that goes to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, there's obviously a lot of teams that will want to find a guy like that. It's awesome Hiers doing that. Yeah.
Matt Campbell isn't a good coach.
He should have gotten out a long time ago, but yeah, he's still at Iowa State.
He's going down the path he's down the path that I think Richie at Furman is going down. But yeah, so Michael, you're right. There's a lot there. I'm not going to compare him to Brock Purdy because I think he's a slightly, his play is very different. But I like your point where if he can land in the right system, someone can unlock that potential. I mean, we're talking about a guy that was invited to the Manning camp, right, to be an instructor. So he's got the arm talent. We watched him sling it around the field. 2022 was an elite accuracy year. So the dude has the potential to be a highly efficient quarterback, and he's got a good arm. He's probably undersized because he's a little shorter and he's thin.
Yeah.
So that's going to be one big knock. But, I mean, if he gets in the right system, I don't know. Look, we're not NFL analysts. I would probably say his most likely outcome is a solid career backup, which, frankly, is the best job in the world. Make about $1 million.
Shout out Chase Daniel. Yeah, shout out Chase Daniel.
Exactly. The dude is a millionaire and does basically nothing on Sunday.
I do know that Hiers, I want to say the Vikings were one of his top 30 visits. So, again, that's a guy, the system, Kevin McConnell, and those quarterbacks. He's going to maybe start with J.J. McCarthy or Sam Darnold out there, right? So he's he's a good developer quarterback. So that would be a good spot for him, kind of the Vikings. I know there's a couple of teams like Denver he's visited. That'd be a good spot too with Sean Payton. But those are kind of the two spots that would be kind of cool for him to go to.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome, especially if he that'd be. So I was going to say his ceiling is probably higher than Duck's. So Duck made it as a starter for a few games in a quarterback-thirsty team in the Steelers. I mean, they were literally down to Devlin, who was their third string at that point.
Yeah.
And now that was I think that was my favorite 3 weeks in NFL history, especially that first week. That was awesome.
Started Sunday Night Football, that game at the Chargers when they were playing San Diego for LA. He won against the Bengals, that GIF that's out there from if you just search Ben or Devlin Hodges Steelers gif, it's him doing the handshake, whatever the running back was after the game like that. So yeah.
No,
But
that
was
was
awesome. Yeah.
like an amazing few weeks to be a Samford fan and to see Duck back there throwing it around in the NFL. But I think Michael Zierlien's higher than that. I don't think he's going to be a consistent starter in the NFL, but maybe a guy like maybe a kind of a lower tier Case Keenum. Maybe he starts half a season or primarily a backup, as we said, but maybe he starts half a season. Maybe he starts a full season if the team is in that kind of position. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. I love the anticipation of the upcoming NFL draft with a Samford guy, a quarterback being talked about.
Yeah. And we'll find out in next week's recording. We'll be able to see whether he was picked late or who picked him up as a DFA. So
that's right. Now we see all this and watch him get drafted like 5th round, and 2 years from now he's winning playoff games and he's like the biggest story in the NFL. And we're just like, yeah, this is why we're not analysts.
Yeah.
But Lance Zierlien is, and Lance Zierlien says he's legit. So you can trust in that. So let's get to softball. Last week, I said we needed to sweep ETSU because ETSU is one of the worst softball teams out there. We did not. We won the series, though, 2-1. But the loss was a 1-run game. So in a sport like softball, that's okay, right? Like it's hard to sweep. But if our only loss was a 1-run game, I can accept that. Jordan Partain put the team on her back. Grant, these stats were nuts. 2 great games. She pitched 12 total innings, 7 in one, 5 in the other, and only gave up 3 runs across those 12 innings. I mean, that's really good in baseball. Yeah. That's exceptional in softball.
Like even going back the 13th last week against Furman, 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 4 Ks, and then bounced back this week, like I said, with those stats. She's been on a roll lately.
On a roll. And now, look, Mac got hit a little bit in that first game, 3 innings, 3 runs. But she's shown once she was back from injury, she's shown kind of her old stuff from last year that's elite. And so as we kind of run into the end of conference play and into the SoCon tourney, the fact that Samford has 2 dogs on the mound, that's the difference, right? In mid-major softball and mid-major baseball, the difference is always pitching and defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm loving what we're seeing from Jordan. And if Mac can consistently find her mojo again, watch out for this team because the bats are waking up as we talked about. The turnaround, Grant, is insane. I thought this team was left for dead. We were going to finish bottom of the conference with ETSU and Western. But here we are. You ready for these standings, dude? UTC's 10-5.
Mm-hmm.
Mercer 10-5. So tie it first. UNCG and then us are tied for second at 9-6. Then we got Wofford and Furman. Wofford 7-8. Furman is 6-9, and then Western ETSU bring up the rear 5-10 and 4-11 apiece. But what were we going to say?
No, I was just going to say this team is, before you went to standings, they've won 4 straight series. They won a BDH issue this week. So, like you said, they're picking up their play at the right time, obviously, in the last 4 series.
Yeah, no, you love to see it. And we do end, so we got Mississippi State as the midweek this week. That's on Tuesday, so that'll be after this podcast airs, as well as the Bama game for baseball. Both after this, you'll hear this episode. But Western is the weekend series. Now, we just said Western's 5-10 in conference play. This is another situation where we really need to sweep to feel good about ourselves, but a series win will do. But we end with Mercer. So we got 2 series in running back, Western, and then we end with Mercer, who's tied for first in the conference. So a great opportunity to build on the momentum heading into will be a very tough series against Mercer right before we hit conference play. Everything's kind of setting up, Grant, for a nice little run in the SoCon tournament, but we'll see.
Yeah. We talked about that like a month ago when they were struggling in the non-con. Said just wait till the conference tournament. Wait till the conference. They'll get it rolling. And sure enough, 4 series wins.
Like very, what's the word? naive, not even naively.
And it was more like
wishful thinking. It was wishful thinking.
It was more like a please turn it around, SoCon play. That's what it was. It's a
right.
We know you can, but please, can you do it? Because we're getting a little nervous with this non-con schedule. But again, they played some tough teams. So
it's kind of like what everybody says when you're in the basketball season, when you're at the bottom tier of the conference. Like, oh, just let's wait till Asheville. Let's wait till Asheville. You never know what can happen.
And 7-seeded ETSU got to the final. So
yes, they did, and gave us much more of a game than I wanted. But let's get to State of the Bulldogs. Grant, you have a Samford women's basketball update. Hit us.
Yeah, before we started recording, I saw this was teased over the weekend. She had started to follow the staff and the team on Twitter, but Richmond guard Kylie Lewandowski has committed to Samford. She's a 6'1" guard from Pittsburgh originally. She'll come in and kind of replace that Lexi Pritchard role again. Another player who last year had 1 year to play and came in and played a lot of good minutes, started a lot of games. So she doesn't have a whole lot of stats and numbers out there, but again, we'll trust that the staff knows what they're doing, obviously, and they know, especially with somebody like Claire Johnson, their prize recruit coming in next year. If you slide her to the 2, maybe put Kylie at the 1, that's kind of that'd be a great 1 too as you try to rebuild this roster. So Kylie Lewandowski is committed to Samford. So the Samford women are now on the portal board as well. So
boom, 1-1, I guess. Michael is not here to run down men's and women's tennis, so I will try my best. ETSU swept in both men's and women's. They were the conference champs. Our women's team beat UTC in round 1, but fell to Furman in the semis. But our men's team made it all the way to the finals. They beat Citadel and Furman in the first couple of rounds, and then lost ETSU 2-4 in the championship. Golf. Women's golf is finished. We got second in the SoCon tourney. ETSU again. Grant, ETSU must just be kings of the spring. They won by 13 strokes in the SoCon championship. And we had one golfer finish in the top 3, Gabby Nicastro. She finished third at +2. But
only a freshman too. So that's
exciting. Cool. Nice little tidbit there, Grant. I didn't know that.
But then we did have a senior finisher, collegiate career, Bailey Dunstan from Little Rock. She was T6. So you had 2 girls in the top 10. So.
Top 10, boom. So second in the SoCon tourney. The margin seems like it was never really in doubt. The men's, though, started Sunday. At the moment, we're second to last. We are +14, Grant. And ETSU, again, ETS freaking U, is at -13. For those at home, that's a 27-point spread. I don't follow college golf, Grant, but that seems like a lot.
It's not good. If you had asked me one sport on campus that needs to pick it up, it's this men's golf program. Jeez, they've had some rough years the last few years.
I am very good friends with a recent golfer at Samford. I think he graduated 2 years ago.
Okay.
I give him crap all the time. I think the golf team is the least deserving scholarship program we have on campus because they underperform. Grant, we are in Birmingham, Alabama. We have some of the best golf courses in the – I don't live in Birmingham. But Samford has access to some of the best golf courses in the country. What is our home course? It's one of the Robert Trent Jones courses. It's do you remember what it was? It's oh man.
Yeah, they practiced there. Then they practiced them at Greystone because I knew Coach Del Greco is a member at Greystone. I want to say he is, so I think that's why the team practices at Greystone sometimes. But
okay, well, I'm blanking on the name. Greystone also sounds familiar. But all that to say, how in the world are we letting ETSU now? ETSU has a nice golf program. I think one of the dudes, I think he won the Houston Open or one of the tournaments this year. He actually went to Baylor in Chattanooga and then went to ETSU. I don't think he went to UTC, but he lives in Chattanooga. He's from Germany. So they have had a guy win a PGA tournament, at least this single season, which is crazy.
Yep.
So maybe they are really good picking the foreign golfers who come over, because I looked at the PGA Tour card, Grant, or tour list, however you say it.
Yep.
And they look by conference, look by school. And ETSU had a surprising number of guys. UTC had some guys. Wofford had some dudes. Now, it's funny. The guys from Wofford looked like they would be from Wofford. There was, you're just like, some good old boy frat star from South Carolina, right? That's kind of who the Wofford guys were. Everyone else, it seems like the SoCon benefits from all the European dudes coming over to play golf.
Yep.
And try to get through and make it through the college routes and then on to the pros. So maybe ETSU pipeline. I have no idea. But Samford needs to pick it up. Second to last is abysmal. For private school, we're a private school, Grant. Private schools are supposed to be good at the country club sports.
Does Scotty Scheffler have like a second cousin who might not want to go to Texas and go to Bama at this, or come to Samford at this point? Because good Lord, how they got suspended due to darkness today, but that man is on a roll. Then you got Nelly Corda on the women's side. She won her fourth time in the last 4 weeks, and then Scotty, of course, won the Masters. He's going to win the RBC this week. So yeah, maybe there's got to be a relative that doesn't want to go to Texas of his that maybe it can come to Samford. I don't know.
That's funny, dude. Scotty's just on a different level.
Ridiculous
level. Last note, we had one player currently in the top 10, Matthew Smith, who's at -1. The leader, Maddie Dodd Berry. What a name, Maddie. Maddie Dodd Berry is at -7. So
that's a good name.
Men's golf, just disappointment.
It's tough. It's tough. Yeah, there's no other way to put it. Yeah.
It is an absolute crime, Grant, that baseball does not get full scholarships, yet we give them to golf. Anyway, off my soapbox.
Yeah.
We'll catch y'all next week. Hopefully softball and baseball can continue to roll. Maybe we land another guy or two in the portal, but we'll keep you all updated. Be sure to check out the website, stateofthebulldogs.com, and our YouTube page.
Subscribe, review, all the things for YouTube. I need to practice that lingo, but yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel too.
All the things. We're all practicing the lingo.
There you go.
But yeah, we'll catch y'all next week. State of the Bulldogs is out.
Hey, you already know. Samford, you better get that ring, man. Hey, love y'all. We love y'all.